Hello and welcome. My name is Nishad and today we will be talking about neonatal jaundice. As you are already aware, visible jaundice occurs in more than half of all term infants and it's even more common in preterm infants. Normally this is harmless, but sometimes the levels of jaundice can be very high and this can lead to brain injury in infants. So we need to be very alert about this problem. Today we will discuss the pathophysiology of neonatal jaundice. We will also try to outline the evaluation of a newborn baby with jaundice and the different causes of neonatal jaundice. We will also try and discuss some of the key points about the management of neonatal jaundice, including phototherapy and exchange transfusion. First, we need to understand why neonatal jaundice is so common in newborn infants and why it causes problems in them. As you know, the bilirubin comes from the breakdown of heme in red blood cells. This heme is then bound to protein in the blood and it is carried to the liver. The liver takes up the bilirubin, conjugates it with glucuronide and excretes it in bile. And once the bile reaches the intestine, the intestinal bacteria act upon this bilirubin glucuronide and converts it into urobilinogen, which is harmless and it's excreted in urine and stools. In newborn babies, many of these processes can go wrong. First, they have an increased production of bilirubin. This may be due to ABO incompatibility or RH incompatibility. In northern parts of India, G6PD deficiency is an important cause. In addition, the presence of a cephalhematoma or bruising over the body can increase the bilirubin production and contribute to higher levels of jaundice. Apart from this, there may be decreased uptake of bilirubin into the liver, decreased conjugation and excretion in bile due to immaturity of the liver and deficiency of some key enzymes that are involved. And finally, the newborn intestine is not fully colonized with bacteria yet. So the breakdown of bilirubin into urobilinogen may not be adequate. So this bilirubin may then get reabsorbed from the intestine and contribute to higher blood levels. This is called an enterohepatic recirculation of bilirubin. Less commonly, neonates can have cholestasis due to sepsis and some other causes. Hypothyroidism is an important preventable cause, especially of prolonged jaundice lasting more than 2 weeks in newborn infants. When the unconjugated bilirubin levels are high, the bilirubin can cross the blood-brain barrier and this may lead to bilirubin encephalopathy. In the initial stages, the baby may look lethargic, may refuse feeds and the tone may appear to be low. This is acute bilirubin encephalopathy and in the initial stages it may be reversible. In later stages, the baby can have seizures or may even be comatose and at that stage it is not reversible anymore. In the chronic stages of bilirubin encephalopathy, what we call kernicterus, there can be sensory neural deafness, dental enamel hypoplasia, paralysis of upward gaze or chorioathetoid cerebral palsy. How do we clinically evaluate a baby with jaundice? The Kramer rule or the Kramer index is a useful clinical tool. If the jaundice is visible in a baby, the bilirubin level is usually more than 5 milligrams per deciliter and you probably already know that. The Kramer rule states that if the jaundice is visible on the face, then the bilirubin level is probably around 6 milligrams per deciliter. If it is visible on the chest and upper abdomen, the level is probably about 9 milligrams per deciliter, and if it's on the abdomen and thigh, that's probably around 12 milligrams per deciliter. Involvement of the arms and legs indicate that the bilirubin level is probably around 15 milligrams per deciliter. And finally, involvement of the palms and soles of the feet indicate that the bilirubin level could be higher than 15 milligrams per deciliter, which is a very serious sign and we need to be very careful. But this clinical assessment is not very reliable, so we always need to confirm it with either transcutaneous bilirubinometry or a serum bilirubin level. We need to be alert about the features that indicate a more severe course of jaundice. Jaundice that appears in the first 24 hours of life, involvement of the palms and soles, or jaundice that lasts more than 2 weeks indicate a more serious underlying condition. If a serum bilirubin is available, the total bilirubin levels more than 15 milligrams per deciliter, or conjugated bilirubin levels more than 2 milligram per deciliter, or a very rapid rise in the bilirubin levels more than 5 milligram per deciliter per day or more than 0.5 milligram per deciliter per hour, they indicate a faster progression of jaundice and should be treated more seriously. We should elicit the relevant history in any baby with jaundice. Find out the gestational age of the baby, find out the blood group of the mother and the baby, and find out if the baby has been feeding well or has been otherwise having any other symptoms. If a previous baby had jaundice that required treatment, that is an important risk factor for jaundice. You should examine the baby carefully for pallor, for the presence of cephalhematomas or bruising, or the presence of any systemic signs like hepatosplenomegaly, the presence of neurological signs. Check for excessive weight loss or any signs of dehydration. About investigating babies with jaundice. For all babies treated for jaundice, we will send a total and a direct serum bilirubin. We should also check the hemoglobin or the hematocrit. We should do a reticulocyte count and a peripheral smear. G6PD testing should be done especially in northern parts of India. And we might also do some other tests depending on the baby's condition. For example, we might do a sepsis screen to rule out an infection. Thyroid function should be done for babies with prolonged jaundice. For babies who have cholestasis, we might also do liver function tests, we might do an ultrasound of the liver, and we might do some other scans, and depending on the baby's condition, a few other tests may also be required. The commonest method of treating babies with jaundice is with blue light phototherapy. To decide whether phototherapy should be started or not, you can use this chart from the American Academy of Pediatrics. So depending on the baby's gestational age, the hour of life at which the test was done, and the presence or absence of risk factors, we will plot the bilirubin on this chart, and if it is above the cutoff for phototherapy, we will initiate phototherapy. A similar chart from the American Academy of Pediatrics is available for exchange transfusion also. How do we administer phototherapy? The baby should be unclothed and only the genitals and the eyes should be covered. The light source should not be more than 45 centimeters or about 1.5 feet from the baby. It can actually be closer to the baby as long as it does not cause overheating. We should ensure that the mother feeds the baby frequently, and position changing can be done after feeding the baby. Once we start phototherapy, clinical assessment of jaundice is not reliable, so serum bilirubin needs to be done. Transcutaneous bilirubinometry is also not reliable once we start phototherapy. If the jaundice is high, or if there are features of bilirubin encephalopathy, exchange transfusion has to be done. For ABO incompatibility, in general, we use O group cells suspended in AB plasma. If whole blood is used, then we usually use O group blood of the baby's RH type. In RH incompatibility, on the other hand, we use O negative cells in AB positive plasma. The RBCs can also be of the baby's blood type, but should be RH negative. O negative whole blood also can be used, but we usually use it in emergencies. It is important to counsel parents and answer their questions at the time of discharge. Parents should be aware that yellowish discoloration of the palms and soles of the baby is a serious sign, and they should visit a local doctor immediately. Exposing the baby to sunlight is not effective treatment of neonatal jaundice, so we should tell the parents about this. If the baby's bilirubin level had been more than 20 milligrams per deciliter, or if an exchange transfusion had been done, then that baby is at risk of hearing impairment or deafness, and hearing testing has to be done in follow-up. Thank you.